Hello everyone, it's time for another tip of the week. I got many questions regarding what color do I use, how I use them, etc. So I think I will spend this week and the next few tips talking about how I go approach to colors and how I use them in watercolor. Color can be very complicated, and the color theory can be very boring, but I will try my best. So what you see here, this chart, this is the this has 12 colors. All these are the colors that's in my palette as my main go-to colors. I have been using the exactly same group of colors in the past 10 or so years, and it works for me. It may not work for you, but you know, that's how I'm going to explain to you why I'm using this. This one is marked because I no longer use it, so you can ignore that. I put a name under the description of this video, so you can check out the names. The brand is not important, and I don't associated with any brand company, so I don't even need to mention it here. So that's pretty much about the 12 colors I use, mainly 2 yellows, 2 blues, 2 reds, and a few browns, and plus a black, and there's extra type of blues. My palette itself is exactly the same as this one. Let me show you. So here is my palette. You probably see in the other tip as well. I blocked these because those are occasional colors, and then I use them and take them out and keep them for a while and change them. So we don't need to really worry about it. So these are the 12 colors that I constantly use, mainly 2 yellows, 2 reds, and 2 blues, and 2 other extra blues, and a few browns, and plus a black. So that's how I use my colors. I like to keep the palette extremely simple, but my main approach is to mix the colors directly on the paper and utilizing the white paper plus the amount, under control amount of water with the pigment to achieve my desired colors to use in the painting. And so that's about the basics. And you can, again, you can look at the names in the description, and those describe all the color names I use here. In today's tip, when we talk about colors, I thought we were going to concentrate on grains, how I go about mixing grains, and how I separate them and apply to my painting. So usually, first thing I would think about is the concentration. There are plenty of different grains. So here's a reference photo. If you look here, we have a grain trees, different type of grain trees, and we have a grain land. They actually have a different type of grains, not only lighter, darker, but it is also, to me, this grassland is more towards yellow, a lot of yellow. So this grain is with yellow concentration. But if you look at the trees, by comparison, they are mainly with blues. So the grains, the difference of these grains can be easily seen, and then the next question is how I'm going to mix it on from the pigment, which pigment I should be picking. So if you know which concentration it towards, so if it's mainly blue, then you start with blue. If it's mainly yellow, then you start with yellow. Then the things will become a lot easier. It's not a one color grain from a tree, different type of trees to the grass. So that's my approach. So with this one, with this said, let's see if I can, cannot see it here. So now, if I see this grassland, since it's mainly yellow, then I go with my yellow, and here's mainly yellow. Then I'll go with a little bit of blue, any blue, okay? This is a phthalo blue, this is a cobalt blue, either way, okay? So now you get a grain that's mainly yellow, but it's a green, okay? If it's not yellow enough, then you can add more yellow to it to make it clearly towards yellowish green. Then for the blue grains, since it's mainly blue, and I'll just start with any blue. So say cobalt blue, okay? Then I'll go with a little bit of yellow. And you see it's still too much yellow. So I'm going to go get more blues in there. And you see, if you look at it, it's pretty dark. So I'm going to add darks. So the simplest way to add it is the black, okay? So now, it's, if you put on paper, you compare to there, it's still very green. 2 grains, not blue enough. So I'm going to add more ultramarine blue towards it. And now it's really green. But you see over there is fairly grayed down. So the easiest way to mute a too bright of a concentration is add a complementary color, which in this case it's green. Then to go the opposite is I've just added some reds in there. So now with mainly blue, but added a little bit of complementary color in there, we are getting very close towards that green, okay? So that's my approach. So I see the concentration, and of course you will see here slightly yellower than these, but a little bit bluer in that. But with the same concept, you can mix them. You know, now you can mix anything in between. So you get multiple variation of the grains. So my approach is, what's the concentration? It's mainly yellow or it's mainly blue. And if you look at here, it probably is mainly purple. So we'll just add even more in there to get that kind of grain. So it's not the tube grain that you can use directly. You can do that, but the grain will become pretty boring. But in this way, if you consider the concentration, then instantly you get a multiple level of different grains. And you have painted the background a little bit to save time. So one more time, we say the front, we'll paint the grass first. So it's mainly yellow and a little bit of blue. So we'll just put a little bit blue in there. And then we have to think about, okay, it's lighter in the distance, probably. Okay, and we'll do that. And we'll see, I'm adding more different type of yellows, but still mainly yellow, making more greens. It's not green anymore, huh? So add more blue. So it's easy. I just dip in a little bit of a blue. So if you add too much of a blue, it's going to change it to be bluish green. So we are doing a more of yellowish green. Okay. A little bit more. And so here is our greenland. You could use any blues in your palette. And what we did here is a gradation that's changing mainly in the yellow concentration, but changing the value a little bit. So the this greenland is from lighter yellowish green to darker, little towards more darker greens in the front, but mainly it's yellowish green. So the same thing as we did before, it's the approach of mainly blue, and I have the dirty blues in the past, so then that made perfect for this. So I'm dirtying it down with a little bit of brown or with a complementary color. Either way, I'm going to use a little bit of complementary color to make it a purplish. So here is the blue concentrated trees, still pretty wet. Let's see if we can get it still. Okay, so just that. And you see how different these greens now are, but they are very interesting greens because they are different. If you use the just tube greens, then it will become very similar or exactly same, then it become boring. So I just put it in there. Okay, so it's mainly blue, and grade it down by adding complementary colors to the top. I'll do a little bit in there. It's not a purple enough, so I'm just adding a little bit of purple in there, so that's different from this one. Okay. And in the reference photo, the underneath it, it seems more towards bluer than the ground, but the greener, yellow, more yellow compared to those. So I'm just doing the comparison and making a new batch of grains. So see, here we go. So here we got a different type of grains. So you see these grains are now much more interesting than the ones that are just out of a tube, because here's a little reds, here is a little purplish, blue, and it goes blend together. And we'll bring this one there. We'll finish the rest, but that's how my approach is. So if we don't need to compare to the reference photo, but you see here is how rich the grains can be. And my approach, one more time, is what's towards this color? What's the concentration? Is it mainly the yellow or is it mainly the blue? Then if it's mainly the yellow, you start with yellow. If it's mainly the blue, then you start with the blue. And then almost guaranteed you will get a very rich and full with variety type of the grains. And then from your palette, you can dip in and create them, with all sorts kind of interesting grain colors into the painting. So that's the approach. And I'm going to finish this one right after this and put the end of the video. I hope you will try this one out at home and see whether you can find a more interesting grains that belong to yourself. And we'll continue talking about the color the week after. Thanks for watching.